had to get them to pay attention, the 5-year-olds, and she did an awesome job. Did some yoga, we played with a beard. This kid's name, we called him Truck Stop because he was just a problem child. He was the biggest problem child. He just was hyper intelligent and just couldn't sit still. And wherever we were, he'd just come and attack us and punch us and kick us and do all that stuff. And then we're like, you're the naughtiest kid in all of China. He's like, yeah. And then we'd call up on stage people that, we review the classes that we teach every day. And we test, because Chinese kids memorize the alphabet in a way that we don't. They memorize characters, so they study in a very different way. And so memorization in China is very easy. If I were to try and get Westerners to repeat what we memorized, we couldn't do it. Right? So I'll do a list of 15 things, and all the kids will come up and go, I can memorize what you just taught. I'll do 20, 25, this is 25, and Truck Stop would come up and he'd beat all of them. He'd be like, yeah, I remember what you just did. Like, who are you, you little creature? This is the team photo, and this is the Western team, and our translators all exhausted after 3 weeks of discussing what is this world that we're in, and how can we work on our minds, our behavior, our consciousness to experience the very same world that everyone else experiences in a sublime, exquisite, powerful, joyful way. Is it possible to do that? And in this program, we teach it. So tonight I want to talk about the essence of awakening. I want to avoid, if I can, talking too many Buddhist terms. I'll leave that to all the other Thursday nights where we discuss deep philosophy about the ultimate nature of reality and blah, 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 blah. I want to keep it question and answer. I want to keep it as real as possible so we don't get dogmatic about a true potential that you each have and I have. And somehow in this machine that we work with, this mind, somewhere in there is access to a completely different universe than the one we're in. Completely. And the one we're in fits in it. The one we're in, with all its bliss and joy and troubles and tribulations and sufferings and happinesses, that world fits in and makes sense to this huge, big, other world that is also accessible to us if we wake up. Buddha, wake up. So then what was previously some up and down, I was going to say samsaric. Yeah, I'm trying to avoid it as much as I can. What was previously a suffering can be seen and experienced as an opening experience of the same thing, because there's something in us that generates the experience we're having. And when you get access to it, when you know how to touch it, if initially intellectually and it hurts our head, then we get habituated and used to it, and we begin to see the world more that way. And then ultimately you'll have a visceral experience of it where there is no other alternative but that universe. And then this old universe still appears and you don't believe it until you only abide in the broader, more expansive experience of being the Buddha, the awakened being, which each of us have access to. So that's what I'd like to talk about today. This is about 5 topics really that I think are the essence of waking up. But before I go there, I'm going to make you talk, if that's okay. Who's most uncomfortable about talking? No, I'll choose you. Who's most uncomfortable? You? No? Everyone's very serious. Should we wake up together? I'd like to ask you what you think, and please, there's no wrong answer. What are the buzzwords and ideas around awakening? What meditation is a big trend. Yoga has been a big trend now for 10 years. It's infected Western culture with We've commercialized it to, we have just the perfect outfits to do this activity, and it seems somehow removed to the essence of what yoga could be, and what meditation is going in the same direction. So I'm asking for you to tell me what you think awakening is. Buddha, awaken. What do you think it is? Do you think it's something accessible to each of us? Do you think it's some idea?
I can talk first.
You can talk first since I pointed at you.
I believe in it.
I believe in it. Good.
Logically, but it feels really far away. Like even as someone who, and there are many people here who I recognize who've been practicing for a really long time, and I wonder if anyone else feels that way too. Like, it's like you have 5,000 bajillion tiny pebbles that you have to move from like this container to this container and try to do it before you die. And I don't know if I can do that. It feels like a gargantuan task.
But you think it's possible. So what is it? What would it be like? Is it accessible to everybody on the planet, or is that just bull? Is it a myth?
It would be the type of shift in consciousness, moving from an infant to an adult in like a split second. Mm-hmm. And so like we grow up and our consciousness changes drastically from like our first moment of remembering that we're a human to right now. That's like a drastic shift from being like a child who's self-aware to now. But it's like having that shift in a quicker way. Because if it has to happen before, well, I want it to happen before I die. Mm-hmm. So I'd like this being to become that awakened being in this lifetime. But it feels like those types of things take all of this time. I don't know if that was articulate.
That's okay. I want to hear what you all think enlightenment is, awakening is. I'm going to be uncomfortably quiet until someone else speaks. Or I'll point.
I think it'd be just like waking up from a dream,
mm-hmm.
where the dream doesn't quite make sense, but it made sense while you're in the dream, but when you wake up, you're like, that dream didn't really make sense. And there would be a lot of bliss that came from that, where all of these things that were in the dream before that were really hard and difficult to deal with, you just laugh because like, that was so silly that I was so upset. That was just a dream. Like I didn't have to suffer for that reason, and I was creating my own suffering. And I've had glimpses of it, of that feeling from things in my life, but it would be maybe this eternal feeling where it just doesn't end. Because what I think we all suffer from the most is like, wow, I feel so good, and I know like there's this like nagging, like this has to end. Yeah. Or like, oh my God, I feel too good. Like when something bad is gonna happen. Yeah. And there would just be this like overwhelming joy and bliss that, oh, none of that ever has to happen ever again. And I guess this awakening might, like this flip would happen of realization that I don't know, it would, if I knew, I guess I wouldn't have to figure it out.
Does anybody else feel cynical that it just sounds like words? Like, I'm just gonna live my life, I just want to have a good life. And I don't know if this enlightenment thing is the thing. Like I can philosophize about it, I can think about it, but really, I'm just this meat. Somehow this is it, you know? Does anybody else feel that way? I mean, I've been studying for 20 something years and I still feel that way sometimes. That's why I'm asking. Does anybody else feel that way? Or you're all like, no, we're getting enlightened. We're getting enlightened. It's
I
gonna
think
happen.
understanding that there's a possibility more than, when, it's,
So you're playing lotto.
no, it's accepting that there might be another way of seeing the world than I've been doing for most of my life.
Mhm.
And that creates kind of a gateway. If you accept the possibility, you can move in that direction. And then I get to a point where, like Rachel said, where it's so far away, but parts of it,
Mhm.
parts of the understanding are very accessible. And those early parts change your life radically. Even if you don't make it to the destination,
Yeah.
moving in that direction makes such drastic changes. When you say that just words kind of do, the word that Stephen used, that word bliss to me is like, that doesn't mean anything.
It's a trick.
I don't know what that means. Bliss.
Yeah.
But seeing your world in a different way is very intriguing to me. And like I say, the little bits that I've understood of it in my years of pursuing that make a remarkable change.
Yeah. I mean, I personally agree, hence being at the Three Doors and talking about it. So I'm pursuing a path that I have a belief in. But I fought it all the way, and I continue to fight it all the way. There's a part of me that says, no, guys, we're just sitting in a room and the floor's made of wood, and Hector's this thing, and you're that thing, and that's it. The universe is expanding, and then it'll shrink. I think, because someone told me, and somehow that whole system is still there, pushing the way the world works. And the reason I want to get to that and push you on that point is we have to be honest as we travel this path. It's an investigation, and you can't lose the scientific mind that says, well, let me check if we call BS on the whole idea. Yeah. And hence the, yeah.
Oh, finish.
Hence how awesome it is for me to go to China and talk about these things without the words Buddha, emptiness, karma, dependent origination, and all these loaded Eastern philosophical ideas, which have meaning for me for the study, and those that have been studying have depth around them, to actually remove that lexicon from your experience and try and conceive of it as a reality. Me walking into my job tomorrow, can I access those same ideas without those loaded words and the dogma that might come from it? Yeah, that's why I was going there. Mm-hmm.
I was going to say, I really liked when you said, when you talked about the reality that you perceive when you're awakened as being a part of, within the world you're already existing in, because I struggle with it being something outside of that. Like, it doesn't make sense that you're getting out of this into something else.
Yeah,
to me,
yeah.
it feels like everything and everyone in your world has to change in that. But I don't really understand how it fits. I get confused with that.
Yeah, it's funny because the language is exit samsara, like get out of samsara, like you're leaving that place behind, which exists, and it's over there, and you're heading over here to heaven, and it'll be fluffy clouds, and you're going to look down at all those people. But and it doesn't work that way. It can't work that way. If you get to the depth of understanding of where the world comes from, we'll get to talk about it today. Anyone else have a comment? I'm interested in any buzz ideas around meditation.
I think that for me, awakening it's not really like a destination, but it's not saying that like once you're awakened, like everything's gonna be perfect and you're never gonna feel like sad. I think awakening is more like realizing that like the sadness and the hard times are part of it all. Like it's all like it's all bliss, like finding bliss in everything.
Interesting. Sorry, she said please. Cool. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's interesting, because I was thinking, how do I pitch this? I'm very used to talking the ideas of the Asian Classics Institute, the philosophical study that a Tibetan monk or nun would go through. A Geshe degree takes 20 years. I'm very used to using that language. I don't usually come and get to hang out and talk about personal experiences in relation to these ideas, even though I have them, of course. Yeah. But I was thinking, when I was thinking about how to share it, I'm thinking, to what level do I pitch the conversation? Because to some people, I could say exactly what you just said, and say that, which is what you said, the pain can be bliss. Right? That's in essence what you said. And there's some people you can't say that to, right? So at different levels of understanding and experience, and I think Joseph Campbell had told a story of an American, see if I remember this right, of an American philosopher, I think, or European philosopher, went to Japan and talked to a master over there and says, okay, you talk lots about emptiness and compassion and enlightenment and all this, and what do you say to war and hate and pain? And then the master leans over and is like, between you and me, that's bliss too. That you can't go around telling people pain is bliss, because they will misinterpret what that means and go, okay, I'll have to put up with pain. That's not the idea here, right? The idea is,
yeah, sometimes people think I'm insensitive when I say that, but it's not really what I mean.
yeah, exactly, because words have different meanings to different people, and we'll get to that when we get to the nature of things. So it's interesting that you should bring that up, because I struggled with saying, well, to what level am I pitching the conversation today? And if you have the capacity, you will be able to see everything as bliss. But it doesn't mean you can do it today, as we talked about it. And it doesn't mean that pain is not pain when it's pain. Because when it's bliss, it's bliss. Yeah, but is that possible? Is that transformation possible, or are we forever cycling? So the idea of awakening is awakening to something, right? And I like, Stephen, I didn't pay you or anything, right, to say it's like a dream. No, because I want to talk about it. Well, what is the awakening from? It's this dream-like experience that just, according to the Buddhist view, just has no foreseeable end unless you do something to damage it. Yeah. This cyclic existence of, I hurt, so I'm going to hurt you, and then I get hurt, and then I hurt you, and then I get hurt, and then I hurt you. Or I want, and it goes away, and then I want some more, and I try and get it, and it goes away. And this cyclic experience that we're all having. I want a better job. I got it. I want a better job. I got it. I want a better job. I got it. This complete dissatisfaction with whatever we get. We can't wait to get away from the things that are bothering us and hurting us. We like run away, run away, run away. And in that running away, we create the causes for more of that to occur. And it's this vicious cycle. The same for the things we want. Because in the essence of it, there's a misunderstanding, there's a misreading that the reality we're in is solid and concrete out there, causing my experience. And under just a tiny bit of investigation, we can recognize what this dream is. What is the dream? What is the illusion? The illusion, to put it in practical terms, is that there is something out there in our worlds that are forcing our internal response and reaction. The boss said blah, 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 and I got ashamed, or I got hurt, or I got embarrassed, or I felt blamed. Because from the boss's mouth, the boss's mouth, decibels came out, they vibrated in my eardrum, somehow magic, constructed into concepts and ideas with whole visuals and stories attached to them And then these emotions arose in dependence to those decibels. And you're to blame for that terrible feeling I'm having. Now you're a bad boss and I have to hate you. Yeah, so next time I have to be very careful. So I'm going to say bad things to someone else about you, the boss, because you hurt my feelings. But if we investigate that a little bit, did those decibels cause this whole experience that I was, could those decibels have really caused that experience, I ask you? Honest, like no right and wrong answer, just honest investigation. Is it possible that words, blah, 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 created this whole experience? What do you think?
Well, you can feel threatened, and then there's this aspect of us that we don't really control. I see this in, for example, even though I practice on the cushion and I try to see myself in the real world in a situation that I've experienced many times. A good example that teachers use is road rage, where you think you're enlightened and then somebody cuts you off in traffic suddenly. So how you experience that as you progress, I still do it, and I say, oh, there's that. Hey, what is that? And you know, I understand you talk about the body, that there's a physiological aspect, that the limbic system, you don't have any control over that. And notice your heart rate. So my heart rate's up, I'm breathing shallow and so forth. So you just observe, I guess. There's that.
But did the
words could be the trigger, the guy cutting in front of you, something of it's more in you that creates reaction. It could be any number of things.
Right, right. So could we say definitively that the decibels or the sequence of decibels, Hector, you're a bad employee or something, you know, or Hector, you smell. Hector, you smell, the boss said, and Hector got road rage, yeah. Could the road rage have come from those words? Possible or not possible? Does it seem like it came from those words?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, right? Absolutely. And therein lies the dreaming aspect, the thing we're waking up from. Yeah, I'll go into it deeper when we talk about the nature of things, investigating the nature of things. But in that example, that there is some nature in the words that are coming out or the sounds that are coming out and then being filtered through the body, yeah? And then once the body begins the domino effect of whatever's arising, that was the real cause of this thing. Because heartbeat, accelerated heartbeat can be love as much as hate, as much as fear. Accelerated heart rate, right? Like adrenaline rushing can be all sorts of things, right? So the physiological response is one thing. And the interpretation of that we can't help. It's like, I got road rage. Like, it's not that I didn't get road rage. It's not that there isn't road rage. It isn't that there isn't anger and frustration. Words came, I felt this way. Did I feel that way? Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But the dreaming is in thinking that was the cause. If that was the cause, and we'll get to it when we talk nature, then every single creature that got those decibels must have the same experience. If that's the active ingredient that creates the experience. Even you, for saying the words, must feel like heartbeat and rage. If that was the real cause for this experience that I'm having. So this experience, is it real? Absolutely. Did it come from that? No. Was it related to that? Yes, for me. And therein comes the awakening. Awakening from the falsehood, from the mistake, the mistaken, taken by a miss, by, I don't know if that's really what that means, but we misunderstood, not understood well, where this whole negative experience I was having came from. And in misunderstanding that, in not getting it, in being blinded to it, and in dreamlike reality, I act with misunderstanding and push back at you. And therein begin the cycle of causes that will create more of the same. Anger begets anger, hatred begets hatred. We'll investigate that later. So the dream is, there is a reality that we live in. Yes, the body's going off. Yes, the emotions are arising, the mind's telling stories and creating, fabricating a reality that is being overlaid over something. And we believe that to be a truth. We believe that to be real. And that's how we function. Yeah, like this is where we are at. It's not that it's not like that. It is like that, and it functions that way for us most of the time. Most of the time. And that way of living has its limits. And once those limits are reached, just like the body, it breaks down and starts over again. And this becomes the atoms, the molecular structure here will become other stuff. It won't be a Hector. Yeah. You can even investigate that right now. Like, this thing is not me. It can't be me. If it's me, then why wasn't it me when I was 5? This arm isn't the arm I had when I was 5. It would have looked really weird on a 5-year-old Hector to have this arm, if this is my arm. Yeah, and yet the story, the overlay, the thing is like, oh, it's always been that way. It wasn't always that way. It's changing minute to minute. That is closer to a reality. The dreamlike experience is that, the certainty that you are that. And not just physically, mentally. Yeah, you're this kind of person. You think this way. You feel that way. I am an angry person. I am a compassionate person. Bullshit. It's not true. But we need to grab onto something to experience this life. And we're just regenerating the dream. And the story here is that you can move beyond that reality. And it will be encompassed by that bigger view, that bigger picture. You'll see it for what it is. It will still be words, it will still be decibels. You might recall emotions or see emotions in others, but you will see that it comes from another thing. And there's a kind of bliss, a freedom, the bliss that comes from freedom that arises when you see it that way. And it is liberating. And I wish I could have had more experiences than the few that I've had to find the words to shove it down the throat. Because if you taste it once, you can't look back. It's like a person that was blind gets a tiny bit of eyesight for a minute, and they see the world and they go blind again. They would know what is, even though they're in pitch black again. So the tiny, like what you said, you get a taste of it, and that's enough to feed you to continue to understand that there's something beyond the eyes wide shut. So what's in the dream, and what will wake you up from the dream? Hopefully something terrible like this. Who's seen Doctor Strange? Yeah. Who's not seen Doctor Strange? Wow. I think you should go check out Doctor Strange. It's a little quirky. Can you see it or not? Is it too dark? Anyway.
Oh wait, is it Doctor Strange?
Yeah.
What is his name?
Yeah. I looked up
Marvel.
Doctor Strangelove.
Okay.
And it's not Doctor Strangelove.
I have.
That's not, yeah. Doctor Strange is Marvel. Yeah. And in the story, he's a neurosurgeon and his hands are everything. And he's a little prick. Yeah. He's not a nice guy. He's like a little self-righteous, whatever. But everything is about his perfect, steady hands. And he has a car accident and they're completely crushed. And he is also very determined, and he's going to fix it. And he can't do it in the nominal way. he's got to do it in a different way. Yeah. So the point here is that, and this is, you know, in the hero's journey, before we enter any kind of awakening anything, something's gonna punch you in the gut. Something's gonna slap you around to wake up. A bucket of cold water. I don't know too many stories of people going, I'm having a really great life. I think I'll have a greater one. You know, like, and like, I really don't know many stories. I got any stories, if I think about it, of a person who I consider on an enlightened path, genuinely investigating the nature of reality, who has not had their guts cut out, dropped in front of them, chewed up, and presented to them, and had a kind of deconstruction of their identity and everything that they saw. In that sense, if you use that as a path, if it wakes you up, if it begins the awakening process, then can you call it pain afterwards? You know, can you say it was terrible afterwards? You know, for my teacher, his brother shot himself in the head. His mother died of cancer and his father died in that same year. And that was enough to go, I'm going to be a Tibetan monk. I'm gonna investigate what is going on in this life. That was enough. You know, like a tragedy for a kid. I think he was in his early 20s, like 19, maybe something like that. Many people will just collapse. Something said, oh, let me investigate. There's got to be a different reason for all this stuff. I'm not that interested in having a family and kids now. Why? Well, that might happen. Or whatever the thought process was. So the suffering that comes, the shock that comes from a life that you were heading this way and it looks all nice and lovely, and then something hurts. And it can hurt in a way that can motivate you to say, there's something beyond just this. There's got to be more than this. And if you are fortunate, and this is why I got teary at the beginning, because not many people are fortunate. They have that jump of thought that says, maybe I can think of an alternative. And then for those that are ready, someone will appear or something will appear. And you begin reading, studying, searching. It's at the back of your mind. For most of the people that I know that have gone through some kind of thing like that, like earth-shaking trouble in their good life, for most of them, they put a nice face on and they're like, I'm going to work, my life is okay, to their friends. And I'm coping okay, a little bit of suffering, but I'm okay, thanks. Yeah, and I've got to cook in the morning and I'll have my breakfast. Yeah, I'll get a cup of coffee. Yeah, let's go out on Friday night. And it sort of goes inside and it's in the back of your awareness. And you live out the life with everyone else who's waking up in the morning oblivious to the fact that whatever just happened to you could happen to them. And you know, yeah, because you're looking at life through that lens. And there is power in that. Now, if you're unlucky, things can come out okay and you settle back into your cocoon and say, oh, well, I'm free of that one, that was okay. I'm going to continue. But if the punch was strong enough, it will prompt you to wake. It will prompt you to wake up. And so there's a couple of things here. The essence of awakening starts with recognizing that there is something amiss in the way we understand our world. It's not what it appears. There's something in the matrix. There's a code behind it. There's something that I don't quite see at play here, because it ain't the words forcing my reaction. There's something here, and I'm blind to it. I don't really know. I'm in the dark. I'm dreaming, yeah? And then the beginning of realizing we're in that state is a shock, is a kind of whatever your identity was, that's going to get sliced open if you're lucky. And then you'll see it if you're luckier, that is just the beginning of some other reality, which you're going to have anyway. You must wake up the next day of whatever tragedy you're undergoing, internal or external. I'm not saying terrible external things have to happen to you. Maybe internal things are happening to you and you're like, why am I thinking this way? And at some point you go, I need to know more than the stuff I've been sold in this culture to say my life is going to be okay if I get the degree, if I get the boyfriend or the girlfriend, the picket fence, the half a dog or whatever the stats are. And, you know, and my gun. No, that's just America. No, seriously, you know, we get the story and together we say, it's okay here. That's all we got to do. And you will be a good person. And we don't even see death. We put them away in the nursing home and then they go away slowly. It's all nice and vibrant people in the street looking sexy in New York in their fashion. You know, you don't see death. Yeah, those of you who have gone to Nepal with 3 jewels and 108 lives, you see death and dying on the street. Can't ignore it. There's someone's grandma. Yeah. And you can't get away from it, and it gives you a different reality. But they have their own story there too. China has its own story, and we live our days, and then the next generation comes and goes, what is this? Oh, I like Instagram or whatever the next thing is. Yeah, and we're in the dream. We're in the dream. So hopefully, if we're lucky, the recipe for the essence of awakening is we're not in the reality we think we are. And that's sort of cool. Yeah, it's sort of amazing that there is something other than what we think there is. To me, that's exciting. It's like it awakens in me that childlike investigation about life. You know, like young kids are always asking why. You know, why is the sky that way? I don't know, because. No, why? Why? And really passionately investigating. And then hopefully some catalyst is waking you up, or some serendipitous adventure, like you fall in love with someone and you follow them to somewhere else and you move wherever they moved or something, and you all of a sudden the plugs pulled and you find yourself in a completely weird place and you have to make do with your reality. It's like in indigenous American culture, there's a story of this girl who her own clan was not good enough for her. She needed to meet a different set of American Indians, like someone that was more powerful than her clan. So she met some very beautiful man who was like extraordinary, and she followed him, and she went and moved to his village, and every night she'd go to sleep and he wouldn't be there, and she got suspicious, and long story short, there was serpent, they had serpent essence, that clan, so the clan would turn into huge serpents at night and go out hunting and eat animals and come back. And then when she discovered this, she realized she didn't marry the person she thought she married. He wasn't this handsome man. They were using magic to disguise themselves as humans, because she was living with reptiles, you know, and she longed for her family and she missed her family and whatever. And anyway, the whole adventure finishes with her having an awakening experience, realizing that thirst and lust and following the lure of an adventure took her to a place within herself that she got to see a much broader aspect of herself and her family and her community. And then she, like every hero's journey, she returned back to her clan much more wise and able to share that wisdom with others. And it's no different for you. You share that myth with other beings on this planet in whichever culture they come from. You know, so awakening can happen through a punch in the gut, or by ending up in the wrong place and then having a little punch in the gut. But all of it has to do with causality. Causality is another mix in the cake of awakening. Yeah, so we got a couple of things. We got realizing that awakening, there's a dreamlike quality to the reality we live in. It's not what we think it is. There's a spark or a catalyst that wakes us up. And each of you probably have your own story already about the thing that's punched you in the gut enough for you to go, I'm suspicious about this life. And then we have to investigate causality and understand it. And this is one of the things that I think is fundamental to the understanding of your own personal journey to awakening. There's lots of different ways to, lots of different paths that lead to awakening. But for me, the realization that you could follow cause and effect and understand, first of all, intellectually, that it's possible for a being like us to have that experience. If you knew exactly what cause would produce what effect, if you did it rationally, to the limits of our intellect, and had a certainty about it after that investigation, then you could use causality to awaken. The reason I'm making a point of this, so this in Buddhism, for example, is the law of karma, cause and effect. Causality is what I'm talking about here. Yeah, the law of equal and opposite reaction. We believe in the West, but mostly for physical matter. We say, yeah, that's true, cause and effect, cause and effect, cause and effect. This was caused by something, yeah. And the big idea that I found fascinating in Buddhist study is that why not for your mind also? Why is that just restricted to the physical world? What about the non-physical world, your consciousness? The consciousness that you're nesting in right now, the one that's forcing you to have a certain perception of your reality, that was also caused. It didn't just pop out of nowhere. It's not like outside the realm of everything else that is caused. Yeah, and when you add your consciousness to the equation, then all of a sudden you realize that if you find the right causes, you could have the ultimate effect of awakening, of not being stuck in a consciousness that has the limits, that doesn't recognize its reality. That cause and effect are available to each of us to wake up from this dreamlike state. And in fact, cause and effect is the only way you could get out of it. And understanding that, then everything can be used as a path to awakening, because you have a foundation of logic that says, oh, that's why that would work. So for example, in the yogic path, there's lots of things you can do. You can do guru devotion, you could do asana until your legs drop off. So can you do asana until your legs drop off? Probably not. At some point you have to stop, right? That can be a path to awakening. But why would it work? If you understood why it worked, if you understood where things ultimately came from and what caused them to be that way, and what part of your consciousness played in that, then your consciousness could be caused to be awakened, rather than it just came out of somewhere because you were a good girl or I was a good boy, and someone said, oh, you can be enlightened, which is sort of what we believe. We believe that if I'm a good person, someone else is going to, ding, you're going to be happy now. Oh, thank you very much. It's not out there. There's something in you, and you have to use the law of causality to do that. And there's study and after study and investigation after investigation in Eastern thought about how to use causality to speed up your awakening. Yeah. And to talk about how we use that, we have to talk about the ultimate nature of all things. My favorite topic, that thing called emptiness. we experience something like the road rage, it is a real thing we're experiencing. It's not real, and it's a misconception of Buddhist thought that you just have to sit there and endure. You're having road rage. You can't pretend you're not. You know, it's not like, oh, if I sit here like this, I'm not having it. You already had it. That's why you're sitting there like that, pretending you didn't have it. Yeah, so it's like a misconception that somehow this path would let you endure pain. And it's not the game. That's not the game. The game is there would be no pain if you knew how to experience it otherwise. Ultimately, it's just a rush of sensation, the heart beating, the blood rushing, the chemicals going. But the story the mind creates around it could be different. Yeah. So we have to understand that the crusty stuff outside that diamond is the external experience we're having, and the nature of the ultimate nature, the deepest nature of everything that occurs to us is diamond-like. There's a metaphor in Buddhist thought that the idea of emptiness, which is also a synonym for wisdom, whenever you hear the word wisdom, it means emptiness. The ultimate nature, there is no nature beyond that one of all things, is that of emptiness. And here come all the misconceptions about Eastern thought. Emptiness means blackness. Emptiness means think of nothing while I meditate. Emptiness means I don't have to feel it. It's not the case. Emptiness is a very specific and simple concept, intellectual, but difficult, extremely difficult experience to have. It's counterintuitive to us because we're living in a dream that tells us the world is different to what it really ultimately is. So I'm going to give you a quick example of emptiness in relation to the boss saying decibels. Yeah, Hector, you're stupid, the boss says. Mouth opens and closes, Hector, you're stupid. Hector hears it, heartbeat goes, limbic system goes off. I get road rage all of a sudden. I'm not even driving. Yeah. We discussed, could my reaction have come from that? Your answer? Could my reaction have come from those specific decibels? Honest, just tell me.
Could have.
It feels like it. It does feel like it, right? I wouldn't have felt that way if she had said, Hector, I like your hair. I don't have hair. That was a funny joke. Yeah, you did. Haha, we laughed together. Different decibels. If she had chosen those decibels, I could have been happy instead of sad. Did she not cause me to feel angry? Really, come on. Yeah, a bitch. I should punch her in the face. Right? That's what it feels like. That's really what it is. Yeah. And then someone else that heard her say, Hector, you're bad, agrees. Hector did a bad job. I had to fix his job last week. He heard those same sounds, same decibels, and experienced pleasure. Finally, Hector's getting it. Yeah, I'm sick of fixing this bad work. Right? Same decibels. Hector, you're stupid or something. Eardrums. Joy, road rage. Yeah? And please pay attention, even if you've heard it 1,000 times. If those decibels, the Hector, you are stupid. Yeah? If those carried with them the experience I was having, it must force him to have the same reaction. If the essence was in the decibels. And reality tells us he's having a good time. He felt joy. Could the decibels have carried this experience? Did this experience come from that? Impossible, right? And here comes, please stay with me. Did I have a bad time? Yes, that's agreed. Yeah. Did he have a good time? Yes, that's agreed. The words are empty. The emptiness of that word, of the words are, they don't have the nature of making me feel bad or him good. There ain't any nature. There is no self nature to those words that would ever cause anybody to feel this way from the words. Do you get that? And does it make sense? That's all you need to get to begin your journey to awakening. If you understand that one action cannot produce two different reactions coming from the action, then you begin to get out of the cycle of suffering. Because how do I now produce more suffering? I react with anger to anger, anger to anger, anger to anger, anger to anger, anger to anger. And I create more of the stuff I want to get away from. How is it that happens? And that's with the causality thing. So if it didn't exist in the words, where did my pain come from? And where did his joy come from?
Past karma.
That's what we assert, but let's stay with the problem. Let's stay with the experience. Did we agree that the words are empty of having the nature that I experience? Yeah? They are empty of that. Anyone want to debate that? Because I'm happy to. Cool. We understand philosophically those words are empty of happiness or sadness. Yeah? Causing those two. Did I experience unhappiness? Yes. Did you experience? Yes. So where the hell did they come from? Where the hell did his happiness, joy, come from when he heard those words? Hector, you're bad. Okay. Is it in the words? Is it coming from the words? No. Where is it coming from?
Your mind.
Something in us, right? And we can't say it's the body because heartbeat is heartbeat. It's just heartbeat. Yeah? Eardrum movement is eardrum movement. The eye doesn't see a flower. Right? Sorry to be Buddhist now. Does the eye see a flower? No, the eye sees differentiation between colors and shapes. Who sees a flower then? Something happens beyond the recognition. If I pull out my eyeball, does it have the capacity to label things flower? There's something behind there, which we call the mind, labeling those words involuntarily, because I don't want to feel like crap. Yeah, I just did. It was like road rage. You said bad words. She said good words. Yeah, so there's something in us forcing a reality, creating, fabricating a reality that wasn't there, that it's empty of being that. Does that make sense? This is the essence of awakening. The fact, the very fact that anything out there could ever force itself on I and create my whole experience. That's the dream that we're awakening from. The ultimate nature, the reality of all things is just like those words. There is something in the perceiver, in you, the experiencer of this universe, projecting unwittingly, because you're not doing it by choice. If I had a choice, I'd sit there and make everything bliss. You'd all wake up every morning and go, I'm going to have an awesome day today. And it is. Who has that experience? Who wakes up and wants to have a good day? Put up your hand. Yeah. Why aren't you? What's wrong with you? Right? Because it's not wishing. Yeah. It's not, I'm going to wish the world to be pretty. It isn't. It's messy, but it's coming from us. It ain't coming from the world. It's so simple, we miss it. If the words had power, everybody must feel that power. And the fact that we don't means that each of us have something forcing, projecting a reality onto those words. And like we're projecting it onto those words, we are projecting it onto smell and taste and touch and every other thing we experience on this planet. The goodness of your partner ain't in your partner. Some people think they're asses. Yeah. The music you love so much, it ain't so good. It ain't good at all from its own side. It doesn't have a nature. It's good for you. Try and force your friends, all of them, to listen to your music and make them all love it like you do. Like Stephen does.
So then how do you explain, like if I'm pretending I'm hearing this for the first time, right? So then how do you explain when I yell and say I'm yelling at Santi? Santi feels bad. Whoever is next to Santi might feel bad because I'm being mean to Santi. Sure. And then my cat runs out of the room.
Yeah. And
they're all having this negative experience.
Except you, because you're yelling because you think it's the right thing
and maybe like Steve feels good because he thinks I should yell.
Yeah.
So then maybe it's just that the anger or the yelling is just directed in this area. Like in the example, I'm just trying to like.
No, I like it.
Like, because in the example
and
with
he
the
missed,
boss,
and he missed it because he wasn't.
Kind of, yeah. Or like that there's something in their minds that's the nature of their mind to interpret that in a negative way.
That's what I just said. There is something in their mind to interpret that in a negative way. Yes.
Right, but it feels different than karma. Like, oh, you're just a depressive person. So every time someone
right. You were born depressive.
Kind of like that, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah.
Because when we have these types of interactions, people tend to have similar experiences over time. And sometimes something can shift really radically. Like someone will be yelling at you and you'll have a beautiful experience.
Yeah. Look, I see this happen all the time. My job is to be a corporate change manager. For over 17 years, I've gone to large organizations, thousands of people, and done workshops with them to help them manage change. Yeah, they don't want to change. The organization is rebranding, bought out another company, are firing 300 people, whatever the story is. I come in as the witch doctor and I help them feel good about it. You know, it's my job. And so when I look at organizational culture, it's just a microcosm of a bigger culture. It's just more condensed and you can see it, the dirtiness of it, much better. And so when someone says something or has a negative experience, I'm going to sort of rebuttal what you just said. We have a sense that it isn't really the way I experienced it. Because I know at the back of my mind that somebody else could have a different experience of that. So when the boss is angry, yeah, and he knew she was being angry, but the experience he had was joy. He still labeled it angry, and I labeled it angry, but his uncontrived experience was joy, and my uncontrived experience was upsetness. The next thing we all do in these little clans we call our culture is I quickly go and look for someone to validate my experience because I'm not really sure that it's right. Somewhere subconsciously. I go and look for someone else. Isn't she a bitch? Yeah, we used to like her, but she's such a bad boss, really. And if I don't find someone that believes me, I move on to there's something wrong with her, right? And I'll go, don't you think she's a bad boss? And I'll go and find validating evidence that would confirm my reality. We have this intuition. We know the world isn't what our experience is. And so we develop these what do you call them? We develop, someone help me with the word.
Behaviors.
Yeah, it's like,
idiosyncrasy, validate, like a cognitive system.
no, with cognitive dissonance, we look for, it's not behaviors, it's new habits or something. There's a word for it.
New conditioning? Quirks.
It's sort of like quirks. We develop these little coping mechanisms. I think that's it. That's not a big word. Thanks. We develop these coping mechanisms to try and rationalize the reality that we know isn't fully formed. Like, I know that other people are going to interpret her differently, and I'm looking for evidence. I'm trying to get the bigger group, because if there's 6 of us that think she's bad and 2 of them that think she's good, we must be right. And herein lies the continuation of the dream and the continuation of suffering. Let me go to how we create the suffering, because I haven't gone down that path yet. Where did my upsetness come from? Where did his happiness come from? We agreed it comes from something in our minds, but not by choice. It was just a response. Like, the body went off, but the consciousness around it created this whole story and overlaid it over the reality, over the decibels. But why did my mind have that? And why did his mind have that? And this is where causality is ruthless, yeah? And you could say, with reason and logic, that if the experience was negative and it was in my mind, then I must have put something in my mind. There's something in my mind that flowered into that reality, that erupted into that reality. Who could have put anything in my mind? Who is the narrator and storyteller of your consciousness? Who is in your mind right now giving you a commentary of how boring Hector's talk is, or I thought this was going to have less pictures of China, or who's doing that in your mind right now? It's not me. You're overlaying everything I'm saying with your own conceptions and your own ideas, and there's a motivation to the way you're listening. There's a narrative to the way you're identifying with this room and the people in it, and you're like, I wish he'd hurry up. I thought we were going to have a break with a cup of tea. That is a flower. He was wrong about that. Yeah. No, don't you have a busy mind going on and on and on? Yeah. And so, if cause and effect is true, do all those instances of movement of mind not going to create anything? They're just going to disappear? There's no result to that action? If every action has an equal and opposite reaction, and your minds are busy going, I'm doing this, I think that, I think anger, I think hate, I think happiness, I think joy, sex, da, 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 da. That disappears out of the universe? No, our minds are powerful things. They are moldable things. They are like a gel-like quality that a tiny impression will leave a dent in it. And that concave or convex dent in your mind is the lens through which you experience things. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So here is the trap of cyclic existence, the suffering that comes out of this dreamlike state. I heard decibels. Now we know they don't have that essence. We are a little bit intellectually awakened, yeah? But Hector isn't. Hector just had the heartbeat and road rage. And so my instinct is to hate, to try and lash out back. You hurt me. So what's our instinct? What's our animal instinct? Hurt back. And that voice in my head calculating how to hurt back. I can't hurt you back, obviously, because you're my boss. So I have to pretend to be nice, but my narrative is not being nice. Right? I'm like, I'm going to make sure she doesn't whatever. Yeah, every single thought I'm having now, I'm putting imprints not in her mind, in my mind. And they're not disappearing. Every cause has an effect. A tiny seed becomes the hugest tree. It's its nature. A planted thing must grow. And the result is way bigger than the cause. So a tiny moment of hate in my mind, or even a word of disrespect, or even a word behind her back, whether it hurts her or not is irrelevant. It's being loaded in the projector of my mind, in the consciousness of mind, because I'm watching it. I'm hearing it, like you're hearing all your minds right now. And then a bunch of it is subconscious. So it's like running under the frozen ice. Every thought, every idea, every motivation. You're a storehouse of that stuff. Seeds, tiny seeds, or even plants in your mind, tapping roots, creating roots, creating roots. And then when the experience comes up, when I meet somebody who are blank, just like the decibels, what is projected onto them? Whatever's in my mind. Have you ever met someone instantly and just loved them? Like gone, I really like that person. Never met them before, and they're just so awesome. Who's had that experience, right? Totally. Like best buddies. Wow, how nice. That didn't happen because he was a nice guy. Sorry. It didn't. If it did, everybody would be like, oh my God, he's so awesome. Like they would like your music. They don't. It's not coming from him. It's coming from us. Where did it come from? I've planted a whole bunch of nice seeds about liking or generosity or whatever qualities I saw in that. And here they come overlaid over the empty screen, the blankness, the emptiness. Does he exist? Does he exist?
Yes.
Yeah. Does he exist in the way you perceive him to exist? Be careful.
Yes.
Yeah. For whom?
Yeah.
For you. Does he exist in the way you perceive him to exist? Sorry, what's your name? Marcos? Yeah. Does Marcos exist in the way you perceive him to exist for all of us?
No.
No. What is the emptiness of Marcos? What is Marcos's emptiness based on the decibel conversation?
He has no self-nature of existing the same way for everybody.
There is no Marcos, like Rachel's Marcos, in there, in that body and mind. The Rachel Marcos exists there, thinking that there could ever be a Marcos out there, forcing whatever she perceives him to be out there. That does not exist. That is empty of being that. That is empty of being that. That's all emptiness is. It's so simple we miss it because we can't abide in it all the time. And the awakening path is recognizing that is true. And if you want to go deeper, if you want to really go, whoa, awakening, just like that and just like the decibel, it is also true for you. There is no Hannibal like the way you think Hannibal exists. There is something forcing you to have this whole experience, and that's what makes it real. That's the only real. There could never be a Hannibal that was just that way, the way I perceive him, for all of you. That could never exist, has never existed, will never exist. That is emptiness of that thing there. And just like that, your identity, your persona, your thinking you're just a human, you thinking you're just here for the slaughter that will come for all of us, that is also a projection. And it's caused just like anger begets anger. Harming life begets harming life. And if you get it intellectually, if you get what I just said, you realize that this whole experience that we go through, born, aging, sickness, death, that will happen to every sentient creature here, does not have to happen. Because it's not coming from the experience. It's something in our minds creating it. And if you understood that, you could flip it where an experience of dying might not be dying after all for the mind that is perceiving that previously called death. But would they be dying for everyone else? Yes, if they had the seeds, the imprints to experience it that way. So far, the essence of awakening, the little that I get to share with you is that we're in a dream. For real, we're in a dream. Yeah. Hopefully you got that. Thank you. Hopefully you get punched a little. Enough. You'll get a little punch, a big one. Something to wake you up. Yeah. And then if you've had some fortune to have heard that there is a different reality, then that punch could launch you and propel you out of a cycle, an investigation, a personal investigation to a path, a way out, a way you want to figure out how is it that things work, the way we just explained. Is there, do things not have a nature? Yes. Could they have any nature at all? Absolutely. How the hell do I get to a point where what you described is like waking up from a dream and feeling that bliss? Where do you get to a point where it doesn't look like 500,000 marbles that you have to move from here to there, if it's also just a projection? Yeah, and there is a path, like there are things you have to do, cause and effect, you still have to do some things. Yeah, hence, and I'll go really quickly, you've got to meditate, you've got to plant the right seeds in your mind to force a projection that it isn't shitty. Yeah? Plant things in your consciousness. That's why the idea of virtue or goodness or morality or ethics is aligned to most religions in the world. It's not for no reason. It's that if you understand the nature of what you put in your mind is what your mind projects, then kindness, compassion, love for others is the only way you're going to get kindness, compassion, and awakening in a joyful, loving way. And why everybody? Because everybody, we'll talk about it in a second. A faster track of getting on that path is finding a teacher, finding the awakening, the moment, somebody that can guide you in that journey that is particular to you. And not every teacher is for every student, but every student has a teacher that doesn't come from the teacher, that's also coming from you. And so if you're fortunate enough in this life to find somebody that has touched you in a specific way in here, enough to go, there's something in this world, and it might not be nice all the time. Yeah, that teaching might not be the most pleasant thing, or it could be. Yeah, for me, it sort of began like that. That's why I like that clip. It began with touching hands with my teacher and thinking, this guy is weird. Like I didn't want to know him. I actually wanted to find him. That was my first moment with my teacher. I'm like, why are you dressed up with a red dress? You're a Westerner, you're not a Tibetan. You know, like I had complete aversion to this person, but I had a magnet, like I needed to be around him to prove him wrong or something. It was weird. Like I was magnetized to that person, and he slapped me about intellectually for a year or so, enough for me to go, whoa, I was in that and I had no idea. And then humility came over me that I didn't have before. An appreciation for another human being's intelligence and compassion and kindness that wasn't available to me before. He had the patience to put up with my self-righteous bullshit, you know, and then continued to educate me in a way that I hope you find. And that I hope you find soon. So awakening, there is steps to awakening. They don't just happen because you wish it. Yeah, you actually have to walk a path, and it will be particular to you because you got stuff in you that I might not have. And so you'll need someone that just matches that. And you'll have to go through the dark alleys of your own mind and the blissful, stunning alleys of your mind that will surprise you, to overcome things you thought you never could overcome, to have a kindness and a broadness to you that you thought were not reserved to you. And it's a beautiful thing. But a teacher can get you there faster. And if you want to go faster still, then love is the answer. Absolutely loving every single creature on this planet, because they are just like you, because they come from you, because everything you see in them is you, and all they are is just an old echo of everything you've put in your mind. 7 billion humans, all wanting, like you want, ultimately some happiness, some relief from the dream. They don't even know they're dreaming. So not only do they deserve your kindness, they desperately need it. And when you open yourself up to that, you're walking that path much stronger. And this is called the Bodhisattva path. And we'll get to cover this in the ACI, the next class. I'm nearly done, so sorry for boring you. So Stephen yawning. Thank you. And there's a faster still, a path faster still. So, and this is a path that uses the most raw energies in us, and then alchemically turns them into something even more powerful. But it's like transforming poison. So you don't want to go down this path unless you're really well versed in the first few paths, that really understand the ultimate nature of things, understand causality, understand that there's power in you, understand that compassion is the way. And once you get your hands dirty in that path and you feel that confidence, then you can enter this thing we call the secret path. And that can go very fast in both directions. They say it's like putting a snake in a bamboo shoot, in a bamboo tube. It can either go up or down, right? But it will go fast. So that's that path. So there are techniques in these paths, which include meditation, kindness, contemplation, study, all these things that will deliver our minds, put the seeds in our minds quickly, so we can create the result that we want, which is awakening. And just a reminder that just to know these things doesn't mean you embody them. To know and not to do is not to know. So don't confuse intellectually understanding something with actually being able to practice and walk that path. That is infinitely harder, right? If you've ever tried to meditate, who was a perfect meditator at the first moment they sat down? Who's like, I got this, I can meditate, and was sat there for an hour. Anyone? Come on.
Emmett's not here.
Emmett's not here, maybe, yeah. I don't know if I lasted 2 seconds, yeah. I went in all gun home, like, yeah, I'm gonna prove that guy wrong, the guy with the dress, yeah. And I'm like, what? Like, that's my mind? I own this mind. What do you mean I can't control it? Yeah, and there began that part of the journey. So now let me share. Any questions? Any questions? Going once, going once. Have I helped anyone? You're all very serious. I'm not sure if I was hitting home.
I have a question.
Good, I like questions.
So you're talking about the imprinting of the mind, the seeds. Do they just appear randomly, or do some of them have more power than others? Like, are they just very random, or is one like really strong and it'll come out more often?
Yeah, good question. So just like a forest, if you put some seeds of plants that will grow stronger or faster than others, they'll come up in the first rain. Some seeds in Australia take like 10 years before they ripen or something. They need a bushfire to crack them open, and some seeds are difficult and some seeds are easy to grow. It's the same for the idea of imprinting our mind. There are 2,500 years since the Buddha was on earth, And there's been 2,500 plus years of practitioners getting these ideas of how to put those mental imprints, those karmas to work. And the essence is there are techniques that you can deliberately cause certain imprints in your mind that must necessarily arise and open sooner than others. And they are to do with the intensity of emotion that you do an action. So the more intense the emotion behind an action, the watcher in your mind, the one recording the planting, has a broader, a bigger awareness. Example, I punch a dog in the face, I punch my mother in the face. Which one do you think will have the bigger imprint in me, in my consciousness? Yeah, they're both bad, right? They're both like aggressive. My mind is watching me doing an aggressive action, and it's hurt a living being. But which one will be the one that repeats in my mind more often? My mother, right? So that one will grow faster than the other one and must come out sooner. Yeah. So the intensity of emotion, the object to which you're doing the action, the clarity of motivation, the capacity for you to feel that the action was completed. Did you follow it through? Was it to the right person? And is it done? Like all those things play. Yeah. And there are techniques, and we'll get to talk about them Thursday nights after the Nicaragua retreat. For those of you who don't know, we're going to Nicaragua for a silent meditation retreat on love and compassion, March 10th to the 17th. Thank you. I'll talk a little bit more about that. But after I return from that, we'll start our regular Asian Classics Institute classes where we get to go in depth to these ideas we just talked about, surface level. Yeah, but that's a good question, because if you get the idea that your world is like the projector, it's not that you are receiving data. It's not true. You are the projector of your world. And where does the projection come from? These imprints that we are doing incessantly. We can't stop. The mind is not stopping. You're forever recording, having a little commentary of your intentions mostly, right? For observing your actions. And that action must have an equal and opposite reaction. So the main technique here is, how do we manipulate those seeds that we're planting? And how do we manipulate the seeds that have already been planted? Yeah, and there's techniques around that. That's a course called How Karma Works. It's very detailed, and there's schools of thought about it. We have the benefit of collecting 2,500 years worth of study in the 4 great schools of India, and together you can intellectualize and internalize and understand how you can manipulate that in you. You can even short circuit some really bad seeds that you might have, that you are aware that you've planted, like punching my mother in the face, yeah? Which I didn't do. Any other questions? Yeah.
So I know that this isn't going to be like a straightforward answer to this question, because it's always dependent on the situation, but I guess like my question is like, what do you do practically in the moment? You know, like with all these examples of like, you know, when you witness and understand where something is coming from, you know it's coming from you. But in a practical sense, it's like, you know, what do you do? Like in that moment.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, using the angry boss. I've got an angry client. I don't even know how to deal with him. You know, it's like, he explodes at me. I know what I'm starting to understand where like why I witness him in that certain way and why I feel the way I do. But do I stay in that situation as I work through this out, you know, on my own side until I'm like in this like really blissful state, like, oh, I love it when you yell at me, man. Or am I like, you know, it's kind of like there's like the homework that I can do on my off time, but in the moment when I'm dealing with this person, it's like, what do you do?
Good, good.
You know?
Yeah, it's a really good question because Westerners, we also tend to lean towards feeling abused or staying abused, or somehow we deserve all this pain that we're getting or something. And people can misinterpret these teachings to say, now I've got an excuse to keep being abused. And that's not what we're talking about here. If it hurts, does it come from them or you?
It's coming from me.
Okay. Intellectually, in a quiet meditation room, we get that, right? But when you're in their face, forget it. You're not going to remember, until after. You're in it. You're in samsara. You're in the pain. You're in the matrix. You're not going to sit there and go, hey man, I see the yelling comes from me. I think that could be cool. It ain't happening. Your heartbeat's going. You're having the road rage. So I think the practical answer I can give you is what my teacher taught me and what actually flipped me into action and study. The one experience that I needed was, how do I get rid of my angry boss? Yeah, that was my big thing when I first met my teacher. Like, philosophize all I want, but how do I get, the biggest problem in my life is this angry boss. How do I get rid of him? So I asked the same question. He sat down and he told me everything that I've just told you. There's no nature over there touching you, but that's not going to help you in the moment. You will remember this stuff after you've already yelled back, or after you've been angry, or after you've gotten frustrated with them. Yeah? You know it comes from not them, but you. And if you know that it comes from you because you would have planted seeds in your consciousness of a similar nature, which were much smaller, right? Because seeds grow. Then the last thing you want to do is have road rage towards them, both mentally or verbally or in action, the 3 doors of how to plant seeds. Yeah, you think things which are being recorded, you say things which are being recorded, right? Or you do things which are being recorded. And that's what creates the imprint. You work really hard at not creating any more causes for that kind of behavior in your world. So if you see yelling, you make a personal commitment that you will not yell at anyone for a period of time. And you make it your personal habit to reduce the number of yelling seeds. Yeah. If you've got anger in the boss, you promise to minimize or stop the number of times you are angry to anyone. Yeah, for a period of time that you can do. And you make it your single pointed focus to stop planting those seeds. And eventually, once the boss yells at you once, that came from a seed that you planted, right? What happens to the seed after the tree comes out, the plant comes out? Does the seed exist?
Start.
There's no seed after it's bloomed. The seed expires. You don't have a cause for that again. Once it's come up, that seed is gone. Now, how many of those seeds you got? I don't know. Either do you. Yeah? So all you can do is that I'm going to stop planting that in my garden, which is coming up every time I go near that person. Yeah? That's number one. Now, if you can do it if you can stop yelling at them in your mind, that's the fastest way to do it to that being. Secondly, you don't know how many seeds you've got for yelling. So you should try and do a kind of, there's this thing called the 4 forces, which is a 4-step method to short circuit any future seeds of a certain nature from coming up. We won't have time to go through them, but the essence of that is stop yourself from doing it and do some kind of make-up activity, some opposite of yelling. Yeah, So you're just now loading your projector with those things. Eventually, you will have exhausted or transformed those seeds, and you won't have someone yelling at you, or you won't have the experience from high decibels. You must do it, high decibels. And I don't know how long that will take. Yeah, I really don't, and neither do you. That's part of the answer. The other part of the answer is, if there is abusive behavior that you witness from that side, you have a responsibility to act on that behavior, because you're also recording the passivity or not in relation to aggressive behavior. If your boss is harming you or others, you have some responsibility to do something about it. Otherwise, you're complicit in harming. I'm sorry to tell you, but it's true. Your mind is recording, I am okay with harm being done. Right? So you might have to take action, which could say, I'm removing myself from that experience. I'm going to not be around that person, which is where I find those seeds coming up. Does that make sense? Now, the problem with that, be careful, because I've done this before many times, before I fully understood seeds. I will move to another company, I will go to another place, and over a short period of time, someone will arise, and their name might be exactly the same as my boss. It's happened to me. Yeah, and the same nature would come up. Now, does that nature really come from them? Where is the angry boss coming from, if what we said was true? Yeah, all of a sudden, whatever decibels or behavior or whatever, my mind will cover it with whatever seeds I've got, and I will have the similar or same experience until I exhaust the seeds, which means don't do the thing that is happening to you, and short circuit any potential old seeds that you might have had that caused that. Yeah. So ultimately, that boss will transform or go away, that client. But don't stay in an abusive experience, because that's also complicit in abusing. I don't know if that helped practically.
It does.
Good. For me, the yelling boss was me yelling back at them and them yelling back at me. And it took me 3 months before I could actually experience shutting my mouth. Yeah, like it took about a month before I shut my mouth. It took another month before my impulses didn't want to blame him for my fear. But it was such a good exercise that at the end of those 3 months, he was standing there yelling, doing whatever, and I was having this transformative, never before in my life experience, where I saw my mind create a label and place it on him. The theory that I just told you, I saw it, experienced it. The poor bastard was yelling, screaming, open mouth, red face, emotions up and down. 3 months earlier, I was hating him so much for causing me pain, hating him, yeah? And 3 months of doing this, I see a creature, just agitated creature, like an animal, enraged. It's his nature, it's his seeds I see up there. And I see how my mind is wanting to label him a certain way. And instead of hate, for the very first time ever, I felt a compassion that was all-encompassing. I loved him in a way that he could never recognize. I wanted his pain to stop. That thing that was going on, I wanted him to not have to live that way and create shit in his world. I was freed from him at that moment. At that moment, I was freed from him completely. And within just a few weeks, he disappeared from my life. I got a job offer somewhere else. I moved back to Australia. It was complete separation immediately after that experience. And I know with 100% certainty, I caused that experience. I caused that experience with a single focus, passion to realize, is he really coming from me? And if he is, I'm I'm not yelling once. I'm not even hating once. And it was hard. The impulse was forcing itself up, going, he is the source of your pain. He's being an ass. Was he being an ass? Absolutely. But was he really coming that way? Never. And I wish each of you can now just have that experience so you don't have to live years of bullshit bosses, bad relationships, bad self-esteem, depression, whatever the story is going to be for you. I wish that it just lands on you tonight when you fall asleep and tomorrow you wake up and go, oh, I get it. Yeah, it's not going to happen, but I just wish it. Yeah. Can I share a few stories from China? Just 10 minutes, max. When we left the kids, I went secretly to a place called Chengdu because I heard about this giant Buddha that was carved onto the side of a mountain around the year 700. And then I found out it was carved by a monk that was blind. He had put out a golden statue of a Buddha and the locals had stolen it. And so he thought he'd created a Buddha that nobody could steal. And he carved it on the side. It took 90 years. Can you see him over there? Yeah. The people are all the way down at his feet. Here is the crew that we went to China with. He's pretty big, yeah? And it was stunning to see, like that's his head, okay? And we thought that's a nice experience, what a beautiful thing to see in China. And then there was a park that you had to pay access to. It was like a national park, and we went. There was monastery after monastery from the year 700, 800, and so on. And there was no one around. I don't know if you can see that. Maybe 5 people max we saw. And it just led us like half an hour walk and another half an hour walk. I like that the trees are half painted white. And so we went over that hill and over another mountain. And then there was like maybe 2 Westerners or 3 people over there. And we started seeing things on the cliff. But this is like bizarre to me to have found these things and nobody around and other Buddhas on the cliff. And then on the side of the cliffs, there were these doors that were closed. So we went and approached one of them and opened them. Like no one around. We just had the free run of this place. And there's this terracotta things, and we went in, and there was a crypt at the end. It was just bizarre. This is stepping out. And then there was a sign that said, pharmacist Buddha that way. And I'd never heard of a pharmacist Buddha. I'm like, what the hell is a pharmacist Buddha? And someone said, no, it's the medicine Buddha. I'm like, oh, the medicine Buddha. Pharmacist Buddha, bloody translation. So look out. So we walk up half a mountain, really high. And we went to the lookout and there was nothing. And then we said, no, look to the left. And so here is us, and we turn to the left. And we're like, you guys looking at what is that? It's the pharmacist Buddha. Whoa. It was just massive, carved onto the side of the mountain, still with the top of the mountain there. It was just huge. This is what it really looks like. That's Sarah down here somewhere. Yeah, like massive. So we're like, that's impressive, incredible. We're ready to go home. And then Nick goes, guys, come check out behind the legs of the pharmacist Buddha. So we walk over there to that area over there. And we go down this tunnel, this huge tunnel. And there's a cave complex of ginormous, like now we're under a mountain. Yeah, like deep in a mountain with stuff that size. Yeah, and that size. Like blew my mind. I just wanted to share it with you because it was like I've never seen anything like it. And then I'm like, guys, come this way. And they're like, yeah, check this out. No, come this way. So he's like blown away.
Amazing how well preserved it is.
I think this is new. Like I have no idea. Like it looks fresh. The old Buddha is 700 years old. The mountain and the monastery is that old. This looks new, newly carved to me. I didn't find out there's no literature, there's nothing on it. It's just like this place. We had free reign, there were 5 people, like I said. And then I'm like, no, turn around, look at that big thing in the distance. So that's Earl, the 3 retreat. And check that out. Down a few more steps and another ginormous Maitreya this time. Who looks that size? There's Sarah, somewhere down there. Can you see?
No.
Yeah. And so anyway, there were complex after complex, with way more than I could add on photos here, but we walked out of these complexes. There were even some secret tantric images, which were all pitch black, and we had to use our flashes, and it's like bizarre. We step out completely blown away out of the cave over here. Where is it? Over here somewhere. Yeah. And then I look up and I'm like, what the hell is that? Can you see over there? There's at the top, there's like carved. And if you can imagine that from that carving is some legs that go over to a torso. Can you see that? At the very top. Can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm like, what the hell? And so I stepped back, went really far away, and looked on the other side of the forest, and this head of a lying Buddha over there, carved like 10 times bigger than that giant Buddha that was underground. And this is the head close up on the mountain. Can you see it?
Mm-hmm.
And there's Earl, and that's the entire like Buddha from head to toe. Anyway, that was just a tiny sliver of our incredible journey in the last 4 days of our trip to China. Just walked in to see that 700-year-old Buddha and came out having this amazing private tour of awesomeness. Next Thursday, we're going to talk a little bit about the content of the next Asian Classics Institute courses. I'll give you a quick summary of what we've covered so far, a bit more detail on the essence of awakening. And then the Asian Classics Institute courses that are coming up, 17, covers ACI 6, which is the Diamond Cutter Sutra. It's all about wisdom, the idea of emptiness, in a trippy, practical, in-depth way. ACI 7, which is Bodhisattva vows, understanding what you can do to your consciousness to engage with love with every single creature on this planet, and what effect that will do to your mind. Yeah. And so how to turn those seeds into even more powerful seeds, because of the object is everybody. The flavor is love and compassion. So if every action has an equal and opposite reaction, imagine having a millisecond of true thought of complete love for 7 billion people, what the reaction, what the result would be from such a truth. And then ACI 8, Death and the Realms. Right, is that it? ACI 8, Death and the Realms. It's an amazing course on understanding all the various ways that beings can be beings. And this thing called death, what happens to us after that experience? And does what we think happened necessarily have to happen? And ACI 9 is all about virtue, Vinaya. It's about the link between morality and emptiness. And ACI 10 is the Bodhisattva Charyavatara, this beautiful text that will continue after that about this thing called the 6 perfections, and how to transform your mind into that of a being who has the capacity to just love, just to be in love, which is in fact what we're going to meditate on at the Nicaragua retreat, which is happening March 10th. You're all invited. There's still room. There's a few rooms left, right? There's enough room. Anybody that needs a short retreat can come. It'll be summer. There'll be beach, and there's silent retreat, meditation, yoga every day, incredible food, and an overall elixir for dealing with winter in New York. End of show. Thank you very much for hanging out and letting me blah, blah, blah. You're invited here next Thursday, where we'll do a little bit more of the same, but perhaps a bit more in depth. And if you've got questions, happy to answer them. Yeah. Are you here next week? With baby?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
No, my pleasure, yeah. And feel free to hang out if you have questions. I brought these snacks from China. I don't know what they are. I went to a shop and I'm like, I'll have them, please. There's some that have panda on them, and there's some that have giant Buddha on them, and there's Chinese writing. Anyone read Chinese writing?